attending this morning's Dhamma sharing with Bhante Professor Dr. Yasassi from Sri Lanka, from Sri Jayawardenepura. Bhante will be talking about the Buddha, the greatest free thinker ever. I think the word ever is not missing. Let me quickly read Bhante's profile for those of you who are not familiar with Bhante Yasassi. Bhante Yasassi is a professor of Buddhist civilization at the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura in Sri Lanka. He obtained his BA honours in Buddhist civilization with a first-class honours and a PhD from the same university. He has also successfully completed 2 Masters of Arts in Buddhist Studies from the University of Kelaniya and the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. He is the founder and director of the International Buddhist Research Centre and the co-secretary of the Sri Lanka Association of Buddhist Studies. Bhante Professor Yasassi shares his knowledge as a visiting lecturer in local and international universities such as the Buddhist and Pali University, University of Kelaniya, and the Buddhist and Pali College of Singapore. As a scholar in Buddhist studies, he has authored several books and editions. He has also authored a number of index and referred journal articles, research articles, and also presented research papers at national and international conferences. So without much ado, I would like to invite Bhante to start this morning's Dhamma sharing.
Dear devotees in the Dhamma, today we all are gathered here at the Buddhist Mahavihara Puja Hall to conduct and to listen Dhamma sermon. As usual, in every Sundays in the morning, this Dhamma sharing is going on. So today we are going to discuss about a very important topic with regard to our great master, the Samma Sambuddha. Since we all know we are celebrating the Vesak in commemoration of our great masters, 3 auspicious events in his life. Therefore, this is the most suitable, most proper time to discuss, to talk about our Samma Sambuddha, and also to remind the great qualities of our Samma Sambuddha. Therefore, we decided to discuss this topic as one of the Dhamma sharings within this period, Vesak period. So the Buddha, the greatest free thinker, so that illuminating the Buddha among other philosophers, among other religious teachers, among other people who have ever born in the universe, Buddha can be considered the greatest free thinker ever born in the universe. That is why Buddha is considered a transcendent and superhuman being according to our expectation, our belief. So therefore, by discussing on the Buddha's teachings, the way that the Buddha has given to free thinking, freedom of thought, free will, and quest, as well as the investigation, we can clearly identify, understand how Buddha becomes the greatest free thinker. Why we need to study on these things? We are respecting to Buddha not because of the Buddha's, Buddha statues or some other objects that we are building instead of the Buddha. But we respect the Buddha because of the great qualities and great characteristics possessed by the Buddha. So that is why when we are learning much about the Buddha, we automatically identify the significance of the Buddha and how he differs from some other religious teachers as well. Then we can have more understanding, more faith, more devotion with regard to the Buddha. In the light of that understanding, we can move our life towards the Buddha's teachings. So then, why free will important? Before talking about how Buddha becomes the free thinker, why free will, free thought, freedom of thought, quest, the mentality of investigation, important as a Buddhist. Whether we are Buddhist or non-Buddhist, whatever the inclinations we have to maintain, to sustain the society, this freedom of thought, free will and investigation, the quest should be there. So therefore it is important to identify why free will is important. As we know, as human beings, we all are not same as each and everyone. We are diverse in our physical body, our mentality, psychologically, we differ from each other. So how our perspectives are also differs from each other, vary. Therefore, in such a situation, so that understanding the things, the phenomenons properly, there should be a freedom of thought or free will. Since our perspectives vary from one another. So that is what the freedom of thought, why freedom of thought important. Look at these few pictures. What will you see? Someone can see? Yeah. Any other? Can you see any other perspectives? There are two ladies, right? Can you see two ladies? When a person sees like a skull, right? Another one can see two ladies who are sitting over on two chairs, right? Look at both sides, here and there. Ladies, or I don't know, maybe a couple or whatever. Two persons, right? Then look at this picture. How many sticks are there? Yeah, someone can see 4 and while others can see 3. Yeah, that is a diverse perspectives, right? So if I say concretely, there is 4, right? What happens? Avoid that, we cannot see that is why freedom of thought, free will is important. One can argue 3, another can argue 4. That is based on freedom of thought, that a person can raise questions whether 4 or 3, like that. And look at here, how many legs are there for this elephant? Just see diverse perspectives, right? Sometimes we can see that there are 4, right? And when looking at another perspective, we see 5, 6 or something like that. I also cannot really see how many legs are there. Then look at this picture. Someone can see that it is a kind of bridge. and a series of ships there, right? So diverse perspectives. And this picture also gives the same idea. What do you see? A face. But look at carefully. A woman who is walking towards, right? So that is our perceptions. Nature of the humans in diverse way. So therefore, in understanding all the phenomena in the universe, we are vary from one another. So therefore, there should not have a concrete ideas about the phenomena, and there should be free will or freedom of thought, so that understanding the proper and right way according to the Buddha's teachings. I just took those photos so that understanding why free will is important. So we will elaborate some other points later. However, this is a kind of so that having proper understanding, this knowledge of free will, freedom of thought is very important. Then I would like to draw your attention to the early Greek philosophers. Why? So that illuminating how Buddha becomes a greatest religious free thinker. It is important to comparatively discuss about the Greek philosophers as well as some other theistic religious teachers and some other teachings like that. So early Greek philosophers such as Pythagoras, Plato, Aristotle, and some other early Greek philosophers, they had paid attention to free will or the freedom of thought in one perspective. Their ideas, you can see some definitions here. Pythagoras, free will is doing good. What about the doing bad? There should be a freedom for the person to do bad. Whether the action is good or bad, the freedom should be there. So the identification of the whether the action is good or bad, whether I should do or not, it is based on the oneself, right? That decision should be made by oneself. That is why in early Greek philosophers, they always tried to emphasize that free will, freedom of thought, quest, and all those concepts related to the ethics. Because in Western philosophy, ethics is a major branch of the Western philosophy. They always try to show the human behavior and human thought patterns according to the ethical perspective. That is why they have given this a narrow definition to the free will and freedom of thought. Then Socrates, he also maintains the same idea, freedom for the people to do good is free will. The same idea, same weave. Then while moving on to the Aristotle's perspective, he has slightly given a moderate idea about freedom of thought. He says that choice good or bad can be defined as free will. Choice good or bad. It means human behavior, whether they are good and whether they are bad. So the freedom of choice that a person should have is defined as the free will in that way. Then Plato's definition is quite different from earlier ones. He says the ability not to be submissive, the external authorities such as environment and customs. The ability not to be submissive the external authorities, right? It can be identified as how people are persuaded to environment and customs. Based on that, we are we are moving or we are briefing into one framework based on their environment. Sometimes maybe the tradition or the ancestral, the things related to ancestors, as well as customs, religion, or whatever the things we traditionally believes, right? We are having in such a framework. So therefore, Plato says like that. However, what I wanted to say is, even though we considered that the early Greek philosophers who have done great revolution in the Western society, they have defined the concept of free will or the freedom of thought. Free thought is one aspect. Rather than giving a very, open-minded, they have not given such a idea. Then while moving on to the medieval Greek philosophers, as we know, according to Western philosophy, medieval period is considered the dark era of the Western philosophy. You know why? What is the reason for that? Because of the origin of Christianity in 1st century AD, they are entirely given priority to the existence of the God by the time. Because of the origin of the Christianity, they have given entire attention to the God. Even the free will, freedom of thought, quest, and some other ethical phenomena have been related to the existence of the God. Example, Thomas Aquinas. He is one of the medieval Greek philosopher who has defined freedom of thought as the freedom for people to engage in good activities for the sake of obtaining the praise of the God. How they have centralized everything based to the God, right? Whether the human action is right or wrong, whether they obtains the praise of the God, that is the freedom, free will, or the free thought, free thinking, like that. So that is why some other religions have maintained the idea what the God give, what the activities, actions that we can obtain the praise of the God, they are good, right? Even the jihad and some other activities we can see, since the God is satisfied with their behavior, even though thousands of people died, killed, passed away, they sacrificed their life, it doesn't matter, because the God praises and we can get the praise of the God. So that came into existence after the medieval period, how it is going on. Then while moving on to the theistic religious perspectives, theocentric religious perspectives, God-centric religious perspectives on free will or freedom of thought, we can see few of the major religions, universal religions in the world religions like Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, and most of the God-centric religions, they have maintained same idea on human freedom of thought or free will. As Hinduism, they interpreted as the God created the universe, Mahabrahma. Later on it was developed up to Hinduism. However, they said one should work, one should act according to the law of Manu. No one can go beyond the framework that the God Brahma had pointed out. Right? Therefore, everyone should work for the will of the God, not will of the man, oneself. Right? Apart from that, they were not allowed to raise questions against their scriptures as well. No one could raise question. Whether they pointed out, whether the God said, the Brahma said that he had created the people by his own parts of his own body, such as mouth, shoulders, thighs, and the feet, and something like that. No one could raise questions over that, how it happens, right? No one could raise. Even their religious scriptures not allowed to raise questions. They have faithfully belief. So they were based on the belief and the faith. So not allowed. And then while moving on to Christianity, we have the same idea. According to Christianity, the Holy Bible points out that the God created the world and all living things. In the beginning, God created the universe. Within the first 5 days, He created the world. And on the 6th day, God commanded the earth to bring forth all kinds of living creatures. And He saw that it was good. The first man, Adam, was created by God out of soil and given life by God's breath. So why they have given this kind of idea? The reason is that because of the God, everyone survives. Because having created the man from the soil, God has given the life or the breath by the God. Therefore, no one can live against the God because everyone has received the breath from the God. Therefore, no one can work against the God. So that keeping that limitation within the God, they have compiled such a way. Apart from that, the creation of the woman according to the Holy Bible, it mentions that Adam had no companion of his own. Then the God caused him to fall into a deep sleep and created the woman Eve from one of Adam's rib. So that keeping the woman under the domination of the man as well as the God, right? It is mentioned that they have created the man from a rib of the Adam, the man. So then the woman had to be obeyed in two aspects. One is for the God. She had to be obeyed for the God, and also for the man. So the God domination and man domination, right? So in those two aspects, there should be accordingly. Therefore, no given such a freedom for the woman as well. Then while moving to the Islam, we can see another perspective on that. Holy Quran says the God Allah created the man from the clay first. And then He created you from dust and from a sperm drop, then from clotted blood and a lump of flesh, both shaped and unshaped accordingly. Now here what I am trying to say is that in all those religions, theistic religions, God-centric religions, they wanted to keep the people under the authority of the God, rather than giving them free thought, free thinking, free will, freedom of thought, right? That is why even today, no one can raise questions. No one can question about the God as well as the great, holy scriptures of those religions, right? So everyone should believe. maintain faith over their religion, their idea. But while moving to the Buddha's teachings, Buddha is completely different from such a religious teacher, because in entirely the Buddha as a human being, he tried to show his supremacy not as a divine being but as a human being. Right? He did not say that he was born, he was created by a superhuman God. He said he was a son of a human parents. On that basis, the Buddha wanted to show that the Buddhism is based on humanism, human-centric. That is why, as a human-centric religion, in comparison with other religions, Buddha has given such a priority to freedom of thought and free will. Let's see, I'm not going to elaborate all these discourses here, so that understanding the Buddhas, how Buddha becomes a free thinker. There are so many discourses and so many examples that can be gained from the Buddha's teachings. Here you can see Kalama Sutta, Vimansaka Sutta, Upali Sutta, Rahulovada Sutta, Chullahatti Padopama Sutta, Alagaddupama Sutta, Arya Pariyesana and Mahaparinibbana. Few of the examples where we can see how Buddha becomes the greatest free thinker, and how Buddha has given given priority to freedom of thought according to the Buddha's teachings. That is very important while comparatively study on the with other religious teachings as well, how Buddha has given priority to freedom of thought is very important. You know, once there was a sutta called Kalama, as you know. There was a village in Kosala Janapada by the name of Kesaputta. Right? In Kesaputta, the people who resided in Kesaputta village were known as Kalamas. Those are the people who resided there. So in Kalama, Sutta mentions that the Brahmins and Samanas, Brahmins, so the religious advisors who comes to their village, Kesaputta, they try to maintain their own, illuminate their own idea by dispersing others' views. It means that they always try to emphasize that their own religion is right while dispersing others' religions, others' religious faiths, others' religious views. And the same point they interpret another way, different perspectives, different way, according to their understanding, their religious faith, based on their religious faith. They try to emphasize in diverse ways. Then there was a doubt among the Kalamas, who says right, who utters right, who utters wrong, who says wrong. How their teachings can be accepted, whether this is correct or whether this is incorrect. They had a confusion. Then they approached the Buddha. Having approached the Buddha, those Kalamas informed the Buddha that different religious teachers and Brahmins who comes to their village, they try to emphasize their own view, and they give different ideologies, different ideas on some significant points. The Lord Buddha how it can be identified and how we can justify which is right or which is wrong. Who says right, who says wrong. By taking this into example, Buddha said that it is proper for you Kalamas to doubt to be uncertain. You have arisen uncertainty or the doubt in proper time. Because when some religious teachers are giving different interpretations in the same way, same matter, arise in doubt or arise in uncertainty is a reasonable point. Therefore, Buddha said, don't go upon what has been acquired by hearing. Like, these are the 10 ways of gaining knowledge prevailed in India by the time of the Buddha. People got some ideas based on hearing, right? Based on reported. Since someone said, Anussava, my parents said, my father said, my teacher said, like that, based on the hearings of others, some people try to come to conclusion, understanding some points. Buddha said no. Even the tradition, when something happens according to the tradition, ancestral tradition, and since my father accepted, brother accepted, or my teacher accepted like this, then we have to do the same as what they practiced. Buddha said no. You should not do like that. You should not adhere to them accordingly based on they were carried out by your tradition. If we practice like that, you would come to an extreme, right? Therefore, should not do like that. Even Buddha said the hearsay, right? Sometimes we hear some people are talking like that, some others are talking like that. They maintain this idea, others maintain this kind of a view, something like that. Buddha said, don't respect those hearsays. On the other hand, even the religious scriptures that they have found in religious scriptures, do not accept them as they are correct. That is your responsibility to not submissive even the religious scriptures. You know how Buddha has given free thought, free will to the human being? Even once Buddha said, most of the religious scriptures, they points out that the followers had no right to raise questions over them. Buddha said, Tathagatappa vedite Dhamma vinaye vivato virochati no patichanno. Just as the sun and moon, when they unveil from the cloud, they get much illuminated. In the same way, Buddha said, when the Buddha's teachings are disclosed or the uncover, while that extent Buddha's teachings are making illuminated, right? Therefore, one should always try to illuminate the Buddha's teachings not by hiding them but by unveiling them or the discovering them, disclosing them according to the Buddha's teachings. Then there are some other things like logical format, inference, mere appearance, seeming ability or agreement, consideration, and even the recluse, the one who uttered, is my teacher, is my master. Even what the Buddha said, one can argue on those teachings, right? That is how Buddha has given freedom of thought. Even the Buddha's teachings, right? Buddha never said whatever preached by the Buddha should be accepted as it is. Then how it has to be accepted? This is how the individual judgment is given priority in Buddhism. Rather than all other ways, like, the Buddha's utterances, or they are found in the Buddha's teachings, Buddhist scriptures like that. Whatever they are there, you can keep them away. Finally, you have to be responsible on your decision based on your own thought, your own idea, your own view. This says, when you yourselves know these things are bad, blamable, censured by wise, undertaken and observed, these things led to harm and ill, abandon them. The decision should be made by oneself, not based on other external factors according to the Buddha's teachings. On the other hand, Buddha pointed out other things are good and they should be cultivated. Other things means which are not bad, not blamable by wise, and also which are not harmful to oneself, others, and both, right? They have to be cultivated by considering that they are right, good, or they are accurate. That is what the Buddha said. So what this Kalama Sutta explains, this is very important because of the how Buddha has given priority to human mind, human thought, oneself understanding, self-understanding. That is the way, as a free thinker, how Buddha tried to illuminate one's own mind rather than work in acting based on some other external factors, like, based on a teacher or whatever like that. So that is what Buddha has always tried to emphasize, the human capacity and human freedom to make decisions and act on those decisions. That is what the Buddha said as a as the greatest free thinker. You can see how it is going on. Then Vimansaka Sutta, another discourse found in Pali canonical text. We have never heard about any religious teacher who had given chance, opportunity to their followers to raise questions against the great achievements of those religious teachers, teachers like that. In theistic religions, no religion has given permission for their followers to raise the status of the God, and whether the God is omniscience, omniscience, and the all potential, almighty, and they were not allowed to raise any question against the power of the God, right? No one could raise. But the Buddhism, the Buddha once spoken to monks. Buddha said, if you have any doubt whether the Buddha has realized the Dhamma properly, and whether the Buddha had realized the Dhamma in proper way, and Buddha's understanding and the emancipation is correct, you have to raise that question in front of the Buddha. It means that Buddha has given the place for their followers to raise even the Buddhahood. If you have a doubt about that, you have to do that. Once there is, the Buddha was on deathbed, passing away, according to Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Addressing the monks, Buddha said, now I am going to pass in away. I am ready to pass away. Maha Parinibbana. If you have any question regarding the Buddha himself, regarding the teaching that the Buddha uttered, regarding the path the Buddha has introduced, or regarding any other things, you may have to raise questions in front of the Buddha, even though Buddha is going to be passing away within short period of time. Don't keep any, doubt with you. And also Buddha said, don't, if you are not able to, if you are not in the position of asking questions from the Buddha because of the, devotion that you have, because of the Buddha's passing away, if you are in the temptation of grief, if you are not able to raise the question, ask one of your friends to ask the question for the sake of you. That is what the Buddha said, even in the deathbed, passing away, last minutes of the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana. No other religious teachers did like that. And then Buddha said, if you don't clarify whatever the doubt you have before the passing away of the Buddha, then you will have to lament over that, grief over that later. Right? Therefore, you have to do that like that. Buddha persuaded his disciples to do in such a way. You can see how he had paid attention to the given place to free will and freedom of thought for his disciples. So in Vimamsaka Sutta, this is considered the greatest and the most important Buddhist discourse, where the Buddha has given permission for his followers to raise questions against the Buddhahood and the enlightenment of the Buddha. Right? No other religious teacher or no other philosopher has given this kind of a place. On the other hand, in Alagadupama Sutta, Alagadda means the raft. Raft, right? The discourse on taking the simile of the raft into consideration. Once a person is going through extreme, like a water, huge water, the water flow. At that time, when he comes to nearby the water stream, he shows that Tidasho is more peaceful and don't have afraid in Tidasho in comparison with higher show. Then he thought, he was searching here and there whether there is an alternative for him to go beyond the Tidasho. Since the Tidasho is more pleasant and peaceful, not frightened, then he could not find any of the boat or whatever to cross over the water. At that time, this person tried to create a raft by collecting branches and also the creepers, also some other things that are required. By collecting them, he created a raft. Having created the raft, what he did was he tried to cross over the shore. Then finally, he was successful and he crossed over the shore and he reached to the Tidar shore, from hither shore, higher shore, and then finally he escaped his life. Then now he thought like this: when I was higher shore, I did not have any peaceful and the peaceful status there, and I was in a dangerous situation, then so that escape in my life and so that protect in my life, the raft that I created was very helpful. Then once he thinks, how should I pay my gratitude to the raft, which helped me to cross over the shore? Then he thought, I must take this in to my house and to respect them. Right? Then again he thought, it is useless of taking this raft to house, holding it, bearing it into house. I just keep it away. But he had this kind of mentality, temptation in both sides, thinking like that. Finally, taking this example, simile into example, Buddha raised a question from the monks, monks, how that person should have respected the raft, whether it is pulling up and whether it is keeping that same place or bringing it to their house. Then someone said, yes, the Buddha, if he pulled it and if he brought it to his house, that would be the great respect and the paying gratitude for the raft, since it has much supported him to cross over the shore. Someone said no. If he put it there, left there, and that is the proper way. Then finally Buddha said, I would say, if you practice my teaching, the Buddha's teachings, if you try to use the Buddha's teachings to cross over the shore in the sansaric life, sansaric existence, the Buddha said, you should not even hold the Dhamma, since the Dhamma supported you to get deliverance from all the cankers. It means to attain enlightenment. Just as the person who left the raft on the bank of the river, just after crossing over the water, in the same way, you should not hold even my teaching. You have to leave my teaching just after crossing over it. No need to have some kind of, inclination even to my teaching. Right? So what does it say? On one hand, Buddha points out, you should not respect, you should not even believe my own Buddhahood as the teacher with the devotion. You should not think like that. In the same way, Buddha said, you should not hold on even the Buddha's teaching. Whether the Buddha's teachings can be raised raise questions over the Buddha's teachings, and just after using the Buddha's teachings as the way of enlightening, you should not hold it over. That is what the Buddha said in Alagadupama Sutta. Buddha said, you should give up even the teaching that should be known, and what about that which should not be known. That is the comparable, or that is the simile of the raft used by the Buddha, showing the freedom of thought and free will among to his followers. Now you can see, unlike other people, other religious teachers, contemporary philosophers, how Buddha discovered a new thinking pattern, right? By the Buddha himself as a new discovery, as pointed out by the Buddha. Another example, the Upali Sutta. You know that the story, right? Once a householder known as Upali approached the Buddha, and he was one of the faithful followers of Niganta, Nathaputta, right? Then he approached the Buddha with the intention of defeating Buddha by making arguments. What happened was, just after looking at the Buddha, he had completely surrendered, and listening to the Buddha, he became a faithful follower of the Buddha. Once he devoted to the Buddha, he asked the Buddha to accept him as a Buddhist follower. Buddha said no. A person like you should not accept, should not embrace Buddhism at once without having proper understanding and proper thinking. You have to think much to make decisions, Buddha said. Then secondly, the Upali householder requested the same. Thirdly, requested the same. When the Buddha refused 3 times of his request, because Upali had so many followers by the time. Buddha did not want to want them to be, isolated by Upali to allowing Upali to embrace Buddhism. Then finally, having rejected 3 times, while Upali was pleading the Buddha again and again, so that accepting him as a teacher, Buddha said, okay, I will do that. But you should remind, your house has become a shelter for the Niganta teachers for a long time. You had given dana to Niganta priests earlier. If you agree to continue them in your house, giving dana to Niganta priest, I will accept you as a religious teacher, as a Buddhist follower. You know how we can see how Buddha had considered about others, other religious faiths as well. On the other hand, how Buddha has given 3 times for Upali to think again and again, right? That is the Buddha's way of as a free thinker. Always given that opportunity to the person who is willing to make decisions by the Buddha himself, without making any kind of troubles to them, without making any of the any kind of barriers to them. Buddha had given such a permission. So in the same way, there are so many discourses where we can see how Buddha had given. In Rahulavada Sutta also, Buddha has asked Venerable Rahula to introspect 3 times before you act, right? That is what the Rahulavada Sutta mentions. Before thinking, before doing something, you have to think 3 times. Doing this bodily action, will I be troubled? This is very important, the criterion of judging over your works, your acts as well. Doing this bodily action, will I be troubled? You have to be considered, taken into consideration. Whether who asked you to do something, you should not adhere to them. You have to think by your own view. You have to think your own idea. And secondly, doing this bodily action, will others be troubled? That is also has to be taken into consideration. And thirdly, doing this bodily action will both be troubled. These three are the three main criterions that a person should be taken into consideration with before doing bodily, verbally and mentally actions. Both three bodily actions, verbal actions and mental actions. So always we have to be, we should try to maintain this mentality, so that if there is no freedom of thought, no one can see like that, think like that. That is why Buddha wanted to do like that. Buddha said, as a simile, if you take a bucket of water, when you put certain colors to that, what will happen? Can you see your reflection on that? Venerable Rahula said, no, Lord Buddha, cannot. When the water is free from any color, you can see your reflection over that, just as a mirror. Buddha said, in the same way, when you are having some other external ideas, you are in the submissive to other external things, definitely you cannot really understand what is right and what is wrong. Therefore, just as the free bucket of water without mixing with any color, you should try to maintain your mind. That is how we should train our mind, right? Then in the same way, we have to think these criterias before we are acting. That is very important, so that making decisions also, right? Sometimes we make decisions make others trouble sometimes for ourselves and both. So that is very important. So what I wanted to say is, then Buddha said, there are so many teachings in the Buddha's teachings. So in Buddha always pointed out one should act according to one's own idea. As a free thinker, he always tried to show the real path. And through that, what Buddha wanted to do was, Buddha wanted to make us a positive thinker on one hand, rather than a negative thinker. So the Buddha's teachings leads us, right, to think like this, right, positive way. Take up one idea just as the Buddha and make that one idea your life. You remind the Buddha's character in this way. Think of it, dream of it, live on that idea. Let the brain, muscles, nerves, every parts of your body be full of that idea. And just leave every other ideas alone. This is the way to success. That is the way great spiritual giants are produced. So Buddha, having taken the Buddha's life into consideration, this is how Buddha had instructed us to attain certain achievements by making such a very determined intention. So why Buddha has pointed out like this? Because we don't have anyone to deliver, anyone to escape or make ourselves to be released, or there is no. On the other hand, Buddha said, one should not expect reaching one's goals by mere prayer or wish. Sometimes some other religious teachings as well. If you want to achieve something, you have to do more prayer, more wishes, right? Whatever you pray, how times you pray, you will gain prosperous accordingly. Buddha said no. It cannot happen, it never happened. As instance, Buddha pointed out 5 desirable, pleasant and agreeable but rare things in the world If you want to achieve them, they cannot be achieved only by prayer or only by wish. Long life cannot be taken by prayer. Beauty, happiness, fame and good health. These are the desirable, pleasant and agreeable 5 things in the world which we all are expecting to achieve, expecting to maintain, right? But they cannot be achieved only by prayer according to the Buddha's teachings. That is why Buddha said, I do not teach that they are to be obtained by prayer, ayachana hetu, or by wish, pattana hetu. Ayachana hetu means by prayer, pattana hetu by wish. If one could obtain them by prayer or wish, who would not pray or wish for them? Right? Anyone can do prayings more and more, do wishes more and more, but they cannot be achieved only through praying or wishing. So Buddha said, what we have to do is we have to maintain ourselves, because by ourselves evil done. We do evil by ourselves. By ourselves we pain endure. By ourselves we cease from wrong. By ourselves become we pure. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. Buddhas merely show the way. Right? That last line is very, very important to keep in our mind. Why? Buddhas merely show the way. So our responsibility is to go the practice the way that the Buddha has showed us. Buddha has showed us, right? That is what we have to do. What we have to do. Then why Buddha has given these kinds of advices to his disciples? Since the Buddha, as a free thinker, he wanted to make his followers just as the Buddha, those who are maintaining free thought, free thinking. Otherwise, they never attain enlightenment and they never wind up the samsaric journey, if they are wishing and praying over the things like that, according to the Buddha's teachings. And then Buddha said, so that achieving all those things, one should maintain threefold energy in 3 stages of an action. Whatever the action, whatever the things we do, these threefold energy should be maintained in threefold stages. Commencement, which is called Arambha Dhatu. Arambha means initiation, initiating energy. When we start something, we should have a good energy, effort, determination, perseverance, right? So that we start in that act. Then that is called Asada. Then continuity, Nikkama, passing over energy. Difficulties and obstacles, we have to face so many difficulties and obstacles, right? And when doing something, there may be mistakes, there may be difficulties, obstacles, barriers when you are trying to do something. But you should maintain the perseverance or the determination just as while you were starting some work, right? Buddha said, just as an elephant who is going through the forest should not be reversed, right? Should go forward just as an elephant. In the same way, one should try to continue what one has initiated accordingly, without stopping them, without being fear to any kind of obstacles that externally comes. Whether the action, whether the thing that we are going to do is correct, we have to do like that. And then Buddha said, conclusion, getting beyond energy. Parakkama to reach in a successful ending. It means that you should have the balance, energetic way in by until the conclusion of what we have started. So that is what the Buddha pointed out, the real path for the attaining enlightenment as well as to win our life. We all are starting most of the works, right, with determined, and sometimes we lost that energy while we are continuing that. Then we make unsuccessful because of that mentality that we have. Then Buddha said, you should not do like that. That is why Buddha showed by experience, personal experience, how to maintain this mentality, threefold energy, until winning over one's own expectation, one's own idea, one's own view, until the enlightenment. How Buddha practiced his path is clearly emphasizes in the Buddha's biography also, right? Then we can see those ideas. Then, dear Dhamma friends, in today's talk we were discussing on how Buddha became a free thinker, greatest free thinker. So that justifying that the Buddha is greatest free thinker, we had comparatively discussed about the Western philosophical perspectives and the theistic religious perspectives with that of the Buddha's teachings, how Buddha became a free thinker and how he showed us the real way, real path to attain enlightenment and winning our life, make our life very prosperous and peaceful life by practicing the Buddha's teachings. Okay, then we have passed 15 minutes, past 11. Okay, we'll move on to the question and answer session.
Some time ago, quite some time, many years ago, I have heard from this very old Bhante who talks about the teaching of the Buddha includes the Jataka stories. I can only, I think, Navangtu something about the 9 limbs of the Buddha. Can Bhante talk
Navanga Sattu Sasana.
Yes. Can Bhante talk about it a bit?
Okay, then Navanga Sattu Sasana is another term that is denoted to the Buddha's teachings, how it is lined up, right? So basically, when the Buddha's teachings were classified into gathering into different ways like that, Navanga Sattu Sasana is one of the ways that the post what we call the eruditors, like the bhikkhus who after the first Buddhist council, when the bhikkhus were collecting the Buddha's teachings, they have made a classification on the Buddha's teachings into Navanga Sattu Sasana. Example, Sutta, Geya, Vayyakarana, Gatha, Udana, like that, right? Then this, as instance, Geya means the verses. So the Buddha's teachings, with the teachings that the Buddha has uttered, by using the method of verse, they have categorized into Geya category, right? Then Jataka belongs to another category out of the 9. Then it is related to the birth stories of the Buddha, previous birth stories of the Buddha. Abhuta Dhamma means some other, certain miraculous things, miraculous points that are available in Pali Tripitaka. related to the Buddha's life, Buddha's teaching, they have incorporated in that category. In the same way, Navanga Sattu Sasana is the a kind of classification of the Buddha's teachings into different baskets like that. So what first Buddhist council, after the first Buddhist council, the monks who responsible monks who participated in the council, they wanted to categorize the Buddha's teachings according to the systematic way. That is why Digha Nikaya, the lone discourses, right? Lone discourses were put into the Digha Nikaya. Medium size in the length, medium length discourses Majjhima Nikaya. In the same way, Navanga Sattu Sasana, different kinds of Buddha's teachings were categorized into different baskets like that. That is the way that Navanga Sattu Sasana is there.
Does Jainism also promote free thinking?
Jainism?
Jainism, yeah.
Yes, basically in Jainism, actually there is enough place for free thought, free thinking. Because, as an instance, in Jainism, Parama Avihinsavada, absolute non-violence, right? When Buddhism says non-violence, Parama Avihinsavada, non-violence, Jainism said Paramavihinsavada. It is a kind of extreme. Like that is why Jain recluses, when they were trying to, when they were walking over the road, they just tried to clean them before they were wandering on the street. Because they had an intention, there may be very small insects who are not seen our physical eye. They may pass away, they may die because of their walking, and therefore they did like that. However, in fundamentally, as far as concerning the Jainese teachings based on their religious scriptures, they have given some extent freedom of thought for some extent for their followers, rather than in comparison with other religious teachings. Because as instance, the karma teaching of Jainism, they said kaya danda, vachi danda, mano danda. Karma is known as danda. Out of them they have given priority to kaya danda. Kaya means the bodily actions, right? In Buddhism, priority has given to mano kamma, right? Mental actions. Then the reason is, the mind is forerunner. And Chetanaham Bhikkave Kammang Vadami, the volition would be the kamma, whether they are bad or right. It depends on the volition that caused to do that kamma. But in Jainism, bodily action. What I wanted to say is, when bodily actions become priority, it has not given such a freedom of thought by giving priority to human mind. But according to their teaching, their ideas, for some extent, they have given freedom of thought for their followers, but with some limitations. Yes?
I remember our late chief, Kesri Dhammananda, has mentioned that Jainism is only religion similar to Buddhism, which is not talk about a creator God.
Yes.
He mentioned that.
Yeah.
All the religions something to do with the all-powerful God.
Yes, correct. That's correct. Because in comparison with all other world religions, right? Universal religions, now we are living today, we have some other religions like that. Even in the contemporary to the Buddha, out of other religious faiths, Jainism became similar to Buddha's teaching. Jainism became the human-centric religion, because by the time Jaina Mahavira became 24th religious teacher by the time of the Buddha, it is more historical than Buddhism. So the thing is that even though Jainism, there is no argument about that, it was a human-centric religion actually. The thing is that how they practice certain teachings are differ from Buddhism. As instance, as far as concerning 5 precepts, right? In Buddhism, Panatipata, Adinadana, like that it says. Then Jainism, it is the same concept they introduced. They had their own concept as virati. In the out of the 5, first 4 are similar to Panchasila, and the last one says Sarva Virati. Right? Sarva Virati means abstaining from all. It means that it is a kind of extreme, anta. Right? Because of their main teaching was the Parama Avihinsava, the absolute non-violence. Based on that, they had incorporated all the things into the 5th one. In the same way, there are some differences between Buddhism and Jainism, even though both are belongs to the same category as human-centric religions. So as you pointed out, that is 100% correct, but the way they have defined certain certain phenomena, certain concepts is differ from each other. As Brother Leslie pointed out, whether the Jainism gives the place for freedom, yes, but there are certain limitations how they have given. Not like the Buddha. Buddha is completely given freedom of thought to in his teachings, as well as the Buddha's personal experiences through his biography and so many ways like that. But in Jainism, based on some teachings there, we cannot directly, we cannot find out complete idea on that.
Bhante, today's modern generation, they don't believe in following any of the teachings. They call themselves free thinkers or atheists. What are your thoughts? That means they don't follow any of the... what they say is just do good, avoid evil. So
that is one of the main questions we have, right? Even I heard that Vietnam and some other countries, they don't like to show their religion. Most of the younger generation of the Buddhist people, when they have to write the religion, they said no. Right? Right now, over 20% of the people in the world are considered atheist, because there are so many reasons, like the economical reasons for some extent. In the label, when we are labeling into one religion, there may be some discriminations in some other places or other workplace or something like that. Therefore, they don't like to maintain like that. But by heart, they practice their religion. In publicly, they don't like to show. So, as you pointed out, some people, I have a question whether that is the real free thinking or free thinker. They try to say that when they are not attaching to any religion, clinging to any religion, that is the free thinker. No, that cannot happen, because free thinking is not just thinking what one needs to think, right? What one needs to do. That is not actually free thinking. In Buddhism, this idea is completely connected to ethics. Connected to ethics. You know, ethics means human behavior, right? Then based on the ethics, one should decide the human actions. We have only two ways now, whether good or bad. Only these two judgments we can make. The two conclusions, good or bad, right or wrong, right? Based on this judgment, we can practice one's own ideas, one's own activities in that way. But the thing is that without attaching to religion, if we think that it is the freedom or the free thinking, it is, I think, useless. That is a kind of, window that they have created to be freedom and to maintain their freedom. That is a kind of, what is called for mundane, to achieve some mundane life achievements, right? So in philosophically talking about the freedom or the free thinker, it is completely related to the human behavior and ethics, for my understanding. So therefore, it is a kind of just something, how they, as I mentioned earlier, how they created a window for them to be think free and work their own freedom for materially achieve their goals. But it is not. Buddhism always emphasized how we can balance our life, right? With that of the spiritual and material development. In many discourses, Buddha pointed out in that way. But the thing is that the younger generation, they don't know what is Buddhism or how the fundamentals of Buddhism says. But without knowing that any kind of, the philosophical idea, they try to think, as you said.
They feel it's too troublesome to want to learn all this, too much work or too much thinking. So they, just want to go through life like as if it's free to do whatever they want, as long as they don't do bad things.
That is how they try to makes their mind to justifying what they are doing, I think. They try to justify their mind what they are doing, and then they try to think like that.
Yeah, Bhante, it's not just Buddhists. I think it's globally. It's even Muslims, Christians, Hindus. The trend is the same. It's basically an excuse not to go to a place of worship.
Yeah.
Just say I just do good. Indirectly, I'm taking the 5 precepts. I'm done. I'm a good person.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to be done in this world. So they don't want to talk about suffering and no suffering, nirvana. All that is too complicated for them. So let's keep to the basics. I do good. I'm a good person. That's it. But I think that applies across the board, not just to Buddhists, but to Christians, Muslims, I'm talking about the younger generation.
Yeah.
They all feel the same way. They operate the same way.
Yeah, that is, the thing is that we are given some labels as religion, right? So the ethics is universal. As we know, ethics is universal. How we give the judgment over the ethics is diverse according to different religions. So when we are talking about violence as unethical behavior, in Islam, sometimes they try to emphasize that jihad is a kind of the greatest ethical behavior of the individual in the name of the God, right? So that is how in religious labels we try to interpret in different ways. But as you said, globally, that is correct, but the thing is that this kind of idea, if people makes decisions on thinking like this, based on this kind of universal, criteria, that is good. So the whatever the religion they practice, whatever the ideologies they are maintaining, it's okay. No need religion, no need to practice religion. But if they work based on a universal, the criterion like this, that is okay. But now I think we all are complicated in that sense, right? Because, even I myself, I don't like to preach about dukkha. The reason most of the people don't like. They are not expecting, like they don't happy to when we are talking about the lakkana, threefold characteristics, anicca, dukkha, anatta, they don't like. Because why they don't like? When we are talking about something like we will die, we passed away, we are suffering, like whatever the things, they think that is an obstacle for their that is an obstacle for their happiness, right? Yeah, present happiness. They don't like. Then what I am trying to, even in Sri Lanka, when I am doing some Dhamma talks, I try to do something like, positive thinking, how to maintain the positive ideas and some other thing, or how to manage our life, how to balance material and spirituality, something like that. Yes.
Okay, I think we can use the word unsatisfactoriness rather than dukkha.
Yeah, dukkha is the Pali term. So in Westerners, they have translated it into English as suffering. But in the context of Buddha's teachings, suffering gives a very narrow idea. So in the context of Buddha's teachings, the word unsatisfactoriness is the most suitable word for the term dukkha. The reason why we use that is unsatisfactoriness. When we say unsatisfactoriness, that belongs to everything, right? Which are under the dukkha. That is correct. If there are no more questions, we will conclude. Okay, then let us, now we are at the end of the Dhamma sharing today. I am very enjoyed with these 2 weeks with so many religious activities at Buddhist Mahavihara, 8 precepts program and few Dhamma talks here. I always think that this is a kind of great opportunity that I gain in my life to share Dhamma with, normally we do that in Sri Lanka with our Sri Lankan people community, but it is a great honor for me to do and share my knowledge or whatever I have learned with people like you. So thank you very much for inviting me. And that's why I always try to do my best by learning, by reading, by doing some, the things like that with preparation. So thank you so much for everything. So now we are at the end of today's Dhamma sharing, which were talking about the Buddha. This is, as I mentioned, this is a proper time for talking about the Buddha and illuminating the Buddha's great qualities, so that making our mind more faithful and more devotion towards the Buddha as one of the greatest religious teachers. Even thinking of the Buddha makes our mind joyful, right? Makes our mind very serene. Normally, when we get a kind of temptation, angry, or whatever the bad temptations, just go in front of the Buddha image and just see the Buddha within few minutes, and then try to concentrate one's mind, then you will feel that all the things, all the temptations would be vanished, right? That is how the Buddha is such a compassionate person ever born in the universe. That is why we always try to practice the things that the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha's teachings, try to practice it into our day-to-day life. And we are very fortunate to have learned about the Buddha's teachings, right? Like that, because we are everywhere, when we are working with the society, we can hear some negative ideas, negative thoughts, or which our mind is corrupted, right? But none of the Buddha's teachings, it doesn't corrupt our mind. It always try to make our mind in positive way, positive sense. Even though we talks about dukkha, it is a positive motivation according to the Buddha's teachings, right? We are not thinking, we should not think that it is a negative idea, negative sense. So through showing that, Buddha tried to persuade, motivate us to maintain a very good lifestyle. So therefore, with these good intentions, we gathered here to listen Dhamma today. I hope that you learned something about today's Dhamma sharing. So the merits that we accumulated, listening Dhamma, sharing Dhamma, as well as preaching Dhamma, and also the working on Dhamma, all these are the meritorious deeds according to the Buddha. Also discussing on Dhamma is also an auspicious meritorious deed. We all did, by participating here, we all did such a very great meritorious deed, and let us think that the merit that we accumulated by offering, by teaching, by preaching or listening Dhamma, let us transfer those merits to our departed ones, especially Most Venerable K. Sri Dhammananda Mahathera, who introduced Buddhism to Malaysia and Singapore, especially because of his Dhamma sharing based on Buddhist Mahavihara. Still the listeners are here. Therefore, late Chief Most Venerable Dhammananda Thera and the Most Venerable members of the Mahasangha, as well as those who dedicated to build up this temple, Buddhist Mahavihara, into the current status, present status, because of their dedication, because of their perseverance, because of their waste in money and their time. We have a very calm monastic complex among the KL city, right? That is our honor. And to make our mind peace, then let us transfer merits to all the departed ones, including all those who passed away from you in the name of you, your tradition, your family, your ancestors. May they be well and happy. May their sansaric journey be successful, prosper, wherever they are, whatever they do. May they be able to have a joyful sansaric life, and may they be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let us transfer merits to the deities. At the inception of today's Dhamma sharing, we invited the protective deities to come and join and rejoice with the Dhamma. Then let us transfer merits to the deities who gathered here, who are safeguarding our life, our country, our family members. May all the deities free from, may their divine status be successful, and may they find peace, happiness, prosperous, and may they be able to attain enlightenment. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Finally, because of we gathered here and listened to Dhamma sharing today, and not only today, every Fridays and Sundays, right? We are conducting Dhamma sharing. I remember that when we were conducting Dhamma sharings earlier, most of the Dhamma sharings were recorded by mobile phone, by Mr. Tilak Leslie's mobile phone and some other mobile phones, right? Now this Puja Hall is very well equipped with modern technology, right? Modern technology, and by doing all the things. So I am very happy to see those things, because of the we all do all these things in the name of the Buddha and Dhamma, and also the Sangha, right? So because of our ancestors' dedication, as well as the present generation who are looking after all these things, because of your dedication and your works you are doing. So this much of a very great institution, great monastery is survived. So then our duty is to protect and to allow our future generation to do all these things, right? So therefore, all the management committee members of the Sasana Abhiruddhi Vardhana Society, and I should say special thanks to our Leslie Ayya. We friendly and lovely say Leslie Ayya, because of, I hope that because of his dedication, all these things are going on smoothly. Even though we don't have some more people like they do their duty, as well as the management committee members headed by the president and other members, even the Upasika Samiti, right, the ladies section of the Abhiruddhi Vardhana Society, under the guidance of Chief Reverend, we all and also the residence monks here, we are doing such a great service to the people of Malaysia as well as the other countries. Even once I met one Upasika who came to observe 8 precepts, who had heard my Dhamma talks via YouTube, and she said, "I'm very happy, Bhante, seeing you physically today, even though I heard your Dhamma talks in YouTube." Likewise, there may be thousands of people who have listened Dhamma based on the Buddhist Mahavihara and their contribution. What you have put into YouTube, there may be thousands of people who are rejoicing with that, right? So that is one example. So all these are because of the Dhamma and the Buddha's teachings, and may you be well and happy. May your family members, your relatives, and all the well-wishers to you and your families and this temple, may their life be successful, prosperous, as well as may you have long life to protect Buddha Sasana, and finally may all of us be able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.